Welcome to Unstuck It, the podcast for women over 40 who've outgrown the life they were told they should want and are ready to get unstuck and build something new. Today's podcast is an interview with Ashley Johnston, a brand strategist who helps startups define who they are and carve out their space in the market. This episode is a little special because Ashley talks to us about something even more personal: how we can apply the principles of brand strategy to our own lives, especially when we're feeling stuck in our careers and in our life. So let's go ahead and get started. So Ashley, hi, welcome.
Hey friend, how are you?
Hi, good. Thank you for being my first official guest on the podcast. I appreciate it.
I am honored, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm so honored to have you here. So you have been in marketing for over 15 years, and you recently pivoted to focus on helping startups build their brand. Can you tell us a little bit about what brought you to that decision?
Yeah, absolutely. Look at me, losing my voice already.
Already? We haven't even started yet, Ashley.
It's only 2:00 in the afternoon on a Friday, but anyway. So yeah, I just decided that I was in a place where I didn't feel authentic. I didn't feel comfortable. I felt like I was swimming upstream. I was so used to, in the years prior, just playing this part, kind of acting the way I was told to act, the way I was seeing, especially men in leadership, act, and thinking, if I want to be at that table, I'm going to have to be like them. And I'm not like that. That's not me. So I was just swimming upstream and I had to get out. Now, I will say that I experienced a layoff. So that was kind of the kick out the door that I needed to start running. But that's what allowed me to really focus on what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be, and serve the people in a way that I wanted to do it. And that's why I started Moonshot Marketer, to really help those startups really find their identity, find their brand, and bring it to people in an authentic way.
Yeah, that's great that you use that opportunity that came ahead of you to really shift into this new part of your life and career. So also, I really love the metaphor that you use, swimming upstream. I think so many women that are listening can relate to that feeling. Mm-hmm. What would you say to them about that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, this is just a new path for us, something that we're not used to. We have been told our entire lives, like, play it by the rules, but still be who you are. And it's like, well, which do I do? So you played for so long. You thought, okay, well, I'm doing this. I'm masking myself enough that they don't really recognize that I'm not being truly who I am. I can play this game too. I'm smart, I'm capable. I have something to offer, and I'm going to show up in a way that is palatable to them. And you do it for a long time. And then people start telling you that that's not what they want. They want you to be more strategic, or they want you to be bolder, or they want you to work harder when you're already working beyond capacity. And you let things slip in your home life. You try to be everything to everyone, and you just turn into a shell of who you used to be. And I think at this point in our lives, we've realized that we're not going to do that anymore. We are not in junior high where you want to be like everybody else. You want to be you. And if people can recognize what you bring to the table and are okay with who you are, then you can really do anything. And I am trying to help businesses understand that. But like you're trying to help women understand that they are valuable, that they are different, that they have no reason to apologize for who they are, and they just have to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And just to kind of speak back to the part where like you really have to, you're working towards this point of thinking, if I just work harder, if I just do X, Y, and Z, then I'll reach this magical point. And you just keep going and realize that magical point's never going to show up because
Mhm.
the finish line keeps getting moved on you. So I think that's a really, just a really good point to bring up that, we get to a point where we're just like, we're not going to play this game anymore.
Yeah.
So
Well, I remember it was funny. On my 40th birthday, my mom told me, she said, "Oh, you're 40. You've already hit the apex of your career. Now everyone's going to start trying to push you out the door." And I thought, "Oh no, things have changed, Mom, since you were in the world of corporate America." And it hasn't really changed. It's just more subtle, I think, and it makes us more confused instead of being outright blatant about wanting you out the door or
yeah,
to find your place. Um,
you're
they
just not a
instead,
culture fit.
yeah, you're just not doing it right. We want someone else. We want something different. You went from being the young, inexperienced, just a young girl to then uh, almost put out to pasture in a blink of an eye, and you have no idea how you got there.
Yeah.
And you know, it's something that you have to deal with, but I think we're coming to a time where women just are going to say, what? F it. Is
Yeah.
that the right thing to say on a podcast?
I think it's right here. Fuck it.
Unstuck it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna
You could
unstuck
say it.
it.
Sure.
I can say it. I'll say it. Ashley just can't say it because she's
I know.
has
I know.
a limit to the number of swear words she can allow out of her
I
mouth in a
do.
day.
I
So
do. I do. It's funny. They only come out when I hurt myself, like hit your knee on the side of the bed or in the car. Believe me, my children do not hear me swear like they do when I am in the car. So,
yeah, my
anyway,
kids
it's like
too.
a
I
different
mean,
me.
I still swear, but I definitely swear more in the car. So back to our center, I know we talked a little bit around, that you're really doing this branding strategy for smaller businesses and for businesses in general. But when
Hmm.
people hear the word brand, I think a lot of folks tend to think things like logos and fonts and colors. But over time, I know I've learned that brand and brand strategy is something very different. So to you, and when you're working with your businesses and your customers, what do you define brand strategy as really being? And in that same breath, I guess, can you tell us maybe how women can use that concept to help us get unstuck?
Absolutely. Well, so branding is, and I'll say I started my career in like graphic design and things like that. So I understand the confusion when people think of branding as just the logo, the look. But brand really comes down to the perception built over time, like the identity you are putting out into the world that you want people to notice. I mean, think of all the great brands that you know today, like, and I'll say it because everyone says it: Nike, Apple, Coca-Cola. I mean, you can't write a textbook on branding without naming those three in particular because they are so recognizable to us. We don't even have to think about who they are, what they stand for, what they sell. And that's that's what we have to do as women, is to identify who we are and the brand we are trying to show the world.
Mm,
So the advice I have for women that are stuck, who want to be unstuck, is to really sit back and understand who you are. And that's very hard to do. Even me, who does that for a living for businesses, when I looked internally, I thought, well, I'm so many different things. Or you think of the things you've done in the past. You are maybe a bit more generic, like I've worked hard, or I'm a hard worker. I am a great communicator. Well, yeah, so does like half the world. That's what they say about themselves. No, you have to tune in to what makes you unique and marketable, whether you are trying to set up your own business or if you are trying to market yourself to a new employer. And the beauty of this is that the more and more you say it, the more and more you believe it, and the more and more you value it. So you will seek out companies to work with or people to partner with that share those values. And if they don't, you're more likely to give yourself the permission to not do business with them. And that's the beauty of our age. We have decided that we're done pretending and we now just to be our unique selves.
Yeah. And I feel like there's a piece of that that you get through this process of really digging into who you are, which can be hard, especially after years and years of masking as someone else in
Mhm.
a corporate job or in a world that you didn't necessarily fit in. You have to like peel that all back. And then you have to peel back the layers of what do other people think of me or what they should think I am, and all these things that you've
Yeah.
had to deal with up until this point in your life, and really look at who am I? What are my values? What are the things that are important to me? What do I want to represent? And then when you hit that point, I think there's a piece of it where you can more like it's almost unapologetically move
Yeah.
forward as yourself, where you're like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to work with that company. And it's okay that I don't want to work with that company. I will find a company that aligns with my values. There are
Mhm.
hundreds of thousands of companies, or hundreds of thousands of customers, there's hundreds of thousands of X. Like I can find one that's going to align with me and who I am so that I can live in a more aligned world and lifestyle. So I think
Yeah.
that's a really good point.
Yeah. And who do you notice like walking into a room? You notice the person that is uniquely confident in who they are. And it doesn't matter what room. It's usually just the standout person in that type of crowd. And that's really who you need to be. And it can be, like I said, difficult if you don't have the right structure. One structure that I use, excuse me,
It's okay.
one,
Cough,
one,
cough.
yeah, one that I use and actually created a little plug, of course, for startup businesses is this framework I created called the the brand space framework. And the reason I did that, of course, everyone loves an acronym, but two, in the startup world, we tend to ignore the brand stuff early and go straight to tactics because it is either too early or we haven't really found who we are yet, or it's too difficult to do with a small team, or we're asking questions of ourselves that we just really don't know or are uncomfortable to answer. And that translates to women as well. You can be uncomfortable in asking those questions about yourself. You might not have a structure that you can feel comfortable with. And so you skip that part and go straight to resume building, coming up with something on LinkedIn, mirroring everything that everyone else is doing, which I've seen a lot of uh, duplicative brands out there for
Mhm.
people, especially on LinkedIn right now, which I get because of the market we are in right now. But the best way for you to stand out is to be different. And the brand space framework does apply to personal branding too. So SPACE stands for survey, pinpoint, articulate, connect, and evaluate. So you start by surveying the landscape. Survey like what you've done in the past. Think of what might make you a bit unique. Think of who you've worked with. Even survey your friends. And I did that. I asked my best friend, I said, okay, this might sound crazy. We've known each other for almost 40 years, but can you tell me who I am? Like, what do people think of me? She chuckled a bit, but she gave me an honest answer. And it really helped me identify words that people would use so that I
Mhm.
could mirror that back, and gain confidence in who I am. And then pinpointing who you're trying to reach, who you're trying to target, as well as what makes you different. And, you know, real talk here, I always think, wow, look at these really unique people. They stand out in a crowd. They're so different. Like, how did they know that that was going to be something that people not only find as novel, but also interesting? And I always think I'm just like everybody else. Two kids, live in Pennsylvania, work, went to school, you know, just a normal person in America trying to make it. And but if you sit back and really identify what makes you um, stand out, things will just come to the surface. So that's what you want to do. And then articulate it in a way that is like an elevator pitch or something that you can say in one or two sentences. So when you go on an interview or if you introduce yourself to a new crowd, you have that one line that you can just say, this is who I am, this is what I believe, and this is how I do it. Um, so, you know, that hey, Ashley, hey, Andrea, tell me about yourself. You need to have that ready to go, and it will become second nature. Then connect with the right people, the people you want to connect with, not only people who you want to sell yourself to, but also the individuals who will support you, the partnerships, the community outreach groups, anything to help you mentally, physically, anything to grow. That's who you want to surround yourself with. And then evaluate, are these things working? Now, that doesn't mean change who you are or change, um, like trying to fit in again, like we've done for the decades of our life before. It's about maybe just changing up the messaging a little bit, make it a little more clearer, bring it back to maybe one main value point or two if need be. But that's what you need to do so that you can say, oh, Coca-Cola, I think of red, I think of family memories, having it every Friday night. Well, maybe not every Friday night, but when we had pizza at home when I was a kid, and you know, it's a soft drink. Like you don't even have to think about it. And that's what we want with branding.
Yeah, and that's great. And I love your space framework because it really does break it down in such a way that you can kind of work through it piece by piece, trying to like attack all of those things all
Yes.
at once. And I will say, having gone through this process myself, and I feel like some days I'm still going through it. I don't know how many people I asked, like, can you just tell me who I am, please? Because just give me some words. I don't know. I
Be
don't know who I am.
honest. Be honest. If you don't like
Exactly.
me, just tell me. Yeah.
Exactly. Just tell me the things about me that you identify as me, please, because I don't know. I feel like I've come closer to that space, but there's pieces where I'm recognizing that through this it's almost been a healing period since moving into this next phase of my life and starting my own business, where I've realized how much I was hiding of myself and my values out in the corporate world because it wasn't necessarily accepted. And it was just as simple as being somebody who's, really connected with other humans and wanting to like help people with like their healing process and things like that, where I'm a very scientific, very like naturally, more inquisitive person. I don't tend towards the woo stuff, but some of that stuff's really like neat to me and comforting because I grew up with a lot of that. And
Hmm.
so like incorporating that back into my life, even if it's just like a visual aspect or just like a part of my environment, has been important for me. But like up until recently, it's been very much like, oh, don't have like crystals in the house because then you seem like a crazy person. No offense to
Right.
the people who really believe in crystals. I still support you. I'm sure some of my friends are listening. Like, what?
Yes.
Um, but all that to say, like, and I think that this process really breaks it down in a way that you can start working through that. But also, I think it's important for people to hear that it's a process. Like, you can't just sit down and fill out your worksheet and then, okay, I know who I am. I'm going to move forward. I've got
Yeah.
everything. There's an iteration on it where, like, you think you've got it, and then you go out and you do your elevator pitch. You go, oh, that didn't feel like me at all when I said that out loud.
Mhm.
And then you have to go back and rework it, or you are really digging at, like, who am I? What are my values now? What is it that I want to do with my life and how I'm approaching this new group of people or whatever the case. And you're going to have to try it a few times to figure out. And sometimes it's almost uncomfortable to go back to not masking. It's because you're
Mhm.
like all of a sudden in this like raw state of now, are they going to accept me for who I really, really am?
Yeah, I'm
And
doing that. I mean, I
yeah,
think we do it on a daily basis. You walk into a room that is maybe different. I mean, the person I take to my kids' dance class is completely different from the one that I show up in the boardroom or with my friends. Like we
yep,
are totally different people because we've worked our way into being different people to please other people. And we're going to struggle with that. It's just, I think, inevitable for us to struggle with it. But at least now we are saying it's not okay. It's okay to be who we are. Let's figure out who that is. And if we
yeah,
change and evolve, that's the point of living. So,
exactly. And I think that's a really good point too, is like the change and the evolution is all part of it. So, we've gone through this experience, we've gained a lot of information. Now here we are kind of going like, all right, I got to where I thought I wanted to be. I don't think I actually want to be here. And it's okay that you're feeling stuck and you're ready for a change. And now it's time to kind of work through those different steps in that process to get to the other side, to start being who you truly are. And
mhm.
that too will be a process that you work into.
Yeah.
So, just another piece of that too, and kind of talking around how it can be difficult walking into a room with like an elevator pitch or something where you have to talk about yourself. One of the things I've experienced myself and I've noticed with a lot of women is that we struggle with self promotion. We struggle with saying, here are the things that we're really good at. What's your take on that, on how to best express that, how to work with that self promotion?
Yeah. And I think that goes back to it might be a little different now with younger generations. I'm not quite sure. I hope so. But we were always told to be humble, don't gloat. And men were given that permission to do that. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have been. I just think that there's a balance between humility and being confident in who you are. And if you go through the space framework, or if you do some kind of hybrid work on your own, you will over time relate to those words because they came from you. And I will give a tip on your elevator pitch here. Use words that are real. Use words that sound like they came from you and are relatable.
And not
And
ChatGPT.
yeah, yeah. And I use AI all the time. It has a permanent place on my desktop. It is there with me all the time, but it's more of a tool than a replacement for who I am. And I think everybody should see AI as that, which I'll kind of get off my high horse
Yes,
when
well,
it
I had to
comes to
throw
AI.
you
This
there.
is not an AI podcast, but anyway, um, just finding who you are and being confident in it and using the words that people would relate to. People like, for example, if someone said, "What do you do? What do you work for? Who do you work for?" Like, "Oh, we sell software to individuals who need a project management system to elevate who they are with their business and blah, 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 blah." Yeah, that's speak that people don't relate to. But if you say something like, "I help startups like you find an identity and make sure people are aware of who you are in the market and stand out and want to do business with you, that's more relatable. Now, that wasn't as polished as I want it to be, but you get the idea.
I know
So,
what you do and how you do it.
yeah. And it's something you can say in 1, 2 sentences. People don't, look off into the distance and go, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, exactly. Or you talk for, a paragraph and a half on your elevator. I've sat through some of those where it's like, I do this and this and this, and then I do
Yeah.
this. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. Bring it to one. I know it's very difficult, but it can be a blend. Like if you're looking for a way to differentiate yourself, it can be a blend of experience, how you approach things, maybe the people you work with, um, maybe like you were a a military vet who transitioned to a civil job and then decided that you were really an artist and you wanted to, you know, be more in tune with people and nature. Like it could be anything, but think of your unique story and how you would tell it to somebody and try to pick as few words as possible and be as centered around one concept as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I appreciate that. I still struggle with that like one sentence branding. I also sometimes feel like I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, but I
Yeah.
know I'm getting closer every day. Um,
Hey, somebody might help. I don't know.
I know. I need to actually sit down and be like, please help me. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, so no, that's really, really helpful. And as we're kind of coming to the end of our podcast for today, what is one piece of brand strategy advice that you would like to leave with the audience to make sure they really think about as they're going out to either brand for themselves for their business or even just brand for themselves as a person?
Well, a few things run through my mind. One, know that you are valuable. You are different. You are someone who deserves space in whatever space you want to be part of. And you just need to decide that you are worth taking up that space and make other people come to you. And that doesn't mean like, oh, I'll build it and they will come. No, it just means like, I'm going to find the right people. I'm going to find the things that are right for me. And all I have to do is just come together with some kind of plan or brand or identity that I can package that is easily consumable and give it to them and say, this is who I am. Like, you either like it or you don't. And if you want to work with me, that's what you're going to have to do. And as we were talking about this, it's not something that you're going to do overnight. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of reflection. It's going to take reiteration. It's going to take kind of throwing out the paper and throwing it in the wastebasket and just trying it out. Like you're never going to be perfect, but think of all the times you've been to some kind of, what are they called? 40-year-old brain, forgetting the words.
Networking events
Yeah,
or
there we go. Thank
okay.
you. Thank you. Yeah. I was like, connection events? No,
I
that's
think
wrong.
that's the one we're talking about.
Yeah, networking events. Can you think of anyone who has given you an elevator pitch, whether it was good or bad? Like, no, I don't think you would be able to recall that and say, oh, that was a bad one. No.
No.
So, so
I mean, there's a
it's
couple that I
okay.
was like, that was way too long. I know you
Yeah,
you wrote that in
right.
the but
But you don't know exactly what they said. You don't know it enough to recall it on a daily basis. So practice. Go in somewhere and just practice. Like try something. Does it work out? Look at people's faces, see how they respond. Do they ask you questions? Do they seem curious about what you do or what you're trying to accomplish? Or are they kind of glazed over and just waiting to ask the next person what they do? So just try it. Just try it out.
I think it's important too, you mentioned in your framework about connecting with the right people who are there to lift you up as well. Making sure that you're trying it out on a quote unquote audience that it makes sense with, because
Mhm.
sometimes you could have a really good pitch for your people, but if you're in the wrong room, those people are going to glaze over and they're not going to know
Mhm.
what that is. And sometimes your family are not your people when it comes to that sort of stuff. Even though they love you and they care about you, they may not understand what your brand is or what you're trying to go for. And so making sure that when you're doing that practice work, to know if you do get some of those negatives back or it's not hitting right, try it on a bunch of different kinds of people and see if it
Yes.
aligns with the people that you know are your customers or where you want to be in an industry or whatever the case, because sometimes just trying it out in the wrong room can also give you a response that
Yeah.
isn't helpful.
And very good point. And that brings me back to that's where the pinpoint phase is really helpful too. You know who your audience is, and you can tailor that a bit depending on what their needs are.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point that you kind of almost elevate certain parts of your story or certain parts of your brand depending on what's going to be relevant for the people in the room. So you're not changing it, you're just highlighting different parts of it depending on
Mhm.
what's relevant, which is sort of the same thing when you walk into the room with different people. It's different people are interested in different things, but it still may be relevant for them, but you can still showcase those different parts depending on who you're talking to.
Right.
Well, that was awesome, Ashley. Thank you so much for joining me today, talking through all of this, sharing your framework and your story. And, I really feel like this was something that I needed to hear. I'm sure
Yeah.
other folks definitely appreciate it. And I think also just kind of going back to the point that this is something that you will iterate on, that it is something that you work through over time and it's not going to be an overnight thing, and that's okay because you are trying to figure out who you are today. And we didn't figure out who we were overnight the first time
Yeah.
around, first 40
Yeah.
years. It's not going to happen overnight this time around either, but continuing to stay focused on that, finding your people, working through something like your framework or a version of it to really think about who am I now today and what is it that I want is all super helpful. So thank you again. And if you all want to connect with Ashley, you can find her at moonshotmarketer.com or you can follow her on LinkedIn or TikTok. And are you the Moonshot Marketer on there as well?
I am.
All right.
Yep.
Find her as Moonshot
Moonshot
Marketer on
Marketer.
TikTok
Mhm.
or LinkedIn. She's got some really great content and she's just an awesome human. So you should follow her. And
I
as
will.
always, if this episode helps you in any way, please share it. Please share it with a friend who you think might need to hear it. And remember that it's never too late to get unstuck and to start something new. Thank you again, Ashley. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Andrea.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Everything shared here is based on personal experience, research, and lived wisdom. Nothing in this show should be taken as medical, legal, mental health, or professional advice. As always, consult with a qualified professional for your specific situation. Listening to this podcast does not make me your coach, but hey, I'm glad you're here.